Recently, I've been playing the SEGA Mega Drive Classics collection, and it's got me thinking. Imagine if there was a Fighters Pass for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that consisted only of SEGA characters, and which 6 would I choose to have a slot? How are we today, everybody? I hope you're all good. My name is Peter and welcome to the first episode of Creating a Fighters Pass, a new series for the channel. In this series, I will be taking a different video game publisher and creating a custom Fighters Pass consisting of characters exclusive to said publisher and picturing what they would hypothetically be like in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. As a quick disclaimer, I am fully aware that the idea of this has absolutely no chance of happening, but I thought it would be something fun to think about and get people talking. I also thought a video in this format would expand the horizons of character speculation, as this type of video will open the doors for more characters that would actually be really cool to see, even if they have no chance of getting in anyway. And hey, who knows? Maybe one day I could have bragging rights if any of these characters happen to be chosen within the final 5 remaining, and make out as if I saw it coming all along. I thought I'd naturally start this series off with the company that truly gave Nintendo a run for their money during the 1990s, due to the diversity in franchises and characters they possess. I'm of course referring to the House of Sonic that we all know as SEGA. Although SEGA has faced criticism for supposedly abandoning a lot of beloved series, the games they were involved in during their golden days have left a significant impact on the world of gaming, and I thought that a lot of characters within their games would fit the mold of Smash Bros really well. While we already have Sonic and Bayonetta, as well as Joker if you count Atlas, I wanted to think about what other SEGA All-Stars would belong in Ultimate. But before we begin, make sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the Peter Gargan channel to stay tuned for future content. Also, don't forget to ring that bell with notifications on to keep an eye out for the latest. Thank you very much, and with that out of the way, let's get into the video. To start off this video, I'd like to talk about Joe Musashi from the Shinobi series, a franchise consisting of action platformers that's considered one of Sega's most legendary offerings, would be more than welcome to see representation in Smash. I also think it would be great to see more ninja-like characters, as Sheik and Greninja are the closest we have at the moment, so why not have the character that pretty much holds the title of one of gaming's most iconic ninjas, besides Ninja Gaiden's Ryu Hayabusa that is, who is pretty much at this point the most popular choice for a character belonging to the ninja archetype to be in Smash. I originally got the idea of including Joe in this list after playing a bit of Shinobi 3 as part of my research, where I feel his moveset could be translated rather smoothly into Smash. He has ranged attacks in the form of throwing shurikens to close range combat with his sword slashes and kicks, plus his crawling animation would also be nice to see in the same way that Simon and Richter's walking animations have been faithfully replicated. Joe also has special ninjutsu techniques, summoning things like magma and lightning that could be limited use like Banjo's Wonder Wing, just to make him even more formidable on the battlefield. I think we've got to get this one out of the way. Seeing as we already have Sonic, we could very well go down the route of having another character from that franchise to join Sega's Speedy Blue mascot. Over the years, the Blue Blur has made all sorts of friends and enemies, so there's a lot of variety to choose from. However, when it comes down to my personal preference, I'm rather torn between his best friend and his arch nemesis. On the one hand, Miles Tails Prower is my personal favourite character from the entire series, while my second favourite character, Dr. Ivo Eggman Robotnik, would have much more potential for an interesting moveset, due to his robotic creations he has used over the years, as well as being another villain. However, I'm ultimately going to go with Tails in the end for 3 reasons. Firstly, he just is my personal favourite Sonic character like I've said earlier, and since this is my list, I'm naturally going to go with the character I have more of an affinity towards. Also, I've noticed a pattern in terms of the order of characters representing one franchise at a time. First, it starts off with the hero, the main protagonist, the face of the series. Then next up, we see their sidekick or variation of the existing character join alongside them, and then the villain usually comes third. If this pattern were to continue, I guess it would make sense for Tails to get in before Eggman would. On top of that, I do feel like Tails has enough to bring to the table to distinguish himself from his Speedy Blue friend. Being a talented mechanic and genius inventor like Eggman, Tails could bring all sorts of gadgets and weapons to the battlefield, and of course, fly himself to safety with his twin tails. Perhaps the tornado could be utilised in his final smash to deal some devastating damage. My next choice is probably the least likely character I've chosen for this list, possibly due to being one of the least recognisable candidates out of my choices, at least outside of the SEGA fanbase. but I've gone for the teenage dual cutlass wielding sky pirate Vice from the beloved Dreamcast JRPG Skies of Arcadia, a game that's practically begging for a remake or sequel, or both. I think Vice would bring something new to Smash compared to the other JRPG protagonists we already have in the game. Seeing as his weapon of choice comes in the form of dual cutlasses, this would make his playstyle stand out from his sword-swinging brethren, with quick 1-2 combos that take inspiration from his arsenal. Perhaps there could be a way to implement the ship combat found within Skies to make it more interesting, but I'm not too sure on how this could be achieved. I also think Vice's character design and optimistic demeanour generally fits the colourful aesthetic of Smash anyway, and would also make for a great surprise pick, seeing as he's a character that's literally on nobody's mind. Granted, it comes down to the fact that he's a really obscure choice with more likely alternatives, but in my opinion, these are exactly the kinds of reveals that I love seeing in Smash, as I literally never would have guessed the likes of Joker and Terry, so maybe Vice can have that same impact. One of the Mega Drive's most critically acclaimed games came in the form of the run and gun title Gunstar Heroes. Developed by Treasure of Ikaruga and Sin and Punishment fame, you controlled one of two characters, known as Gunstar Red and Gunstar Blue, as you blasted your way through hordes of enemies using different gun mods with varying properties that had their strengths and weaknesses. We saw a sequel on the Game Boy Advance which, based on my research, was also received really well, but didn't sell as well as Treasure and Sega had hoped, and since then, the original has seen several re-releases on modern platforms. When I first tried Gunstar Heroes out, I felt like it was very reminiscent of the classic Mega Man series, where you can change up which tool you'd like to use depending on the situation, which added a lot of replay value to the game as you experimented with different tools. Something that helped make it stand out was the ability to fuse these different weapon types into combined versions, kind of like Kirby 64 now that I think about it. I think it would be really cool to see how this mechanic could work in Smash, as it would really set these guys apart from the rest of the lineup. I also believe the run and gun genre is rather underrepresented, and Gunstar Heroes is the other title that I'd choose to represent these kinds of games besides my natural choice of including Contra. The beat-em-up genre arguably has one of the strongest presences on the Mega Drive. Typically, you can choose from a small cast of characters with their own unique quirks as you move left to right while bashing up waves of enemies that intend to get in your way. One of the most prominent titles in this genre on the Mega Drive consisted of the Golden Axe trilogy, where this character hails from. I've gone with none other than Gilius Thunderhead, as I feel we need a character that utilises an axe as their primary weapon. While Villager and Byleth use an axe in some of their moves, it isn't the main attraction, but it certainly is in Mr. Thunderhead's case. Gilius is also capable of summoning devastating lightning that comes in 3 different variations depending on how high the magic meter is. I think implementing this mechanic from Golden Axe would help make Gilius stand out more beyond just being a guy with an axe. He also has access to various mythical creatures like dragons and chicken legs to ride, so maybe those can be implemented into his moveset too. Another reason why I chose Gilius over the other 2 choices, Tyrus Flare and Axe Battler, was because he is pretty much treated as the mascot of Golden Axe at this point. He is the one that went on to feature as a playable character in the likes of Sega Superstars Tennis and Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Speaking of scrolling beat-em-ups, I figured I'd save the one that makes the most sense to me for last. With the recent release of Streets of Rage 4, the series has now been brought back to everyone's attention, and potentially being introduced to a new generation of gamers in the process. The original 3 titles on the Mega Drive are considered pioneers of the scrolling beat-em-up genre, complete with an iconic soundtrack that's regarded as some of the best in 90s gaming. With such an iconic franchise that's fondly remembered by fans, I figured including the face of the franchise, Axel Stone, would make sense for a Fighters Pass consisting of the Sega greats. His moveset is practically made for him, with jabs, grabs, throws and kicks that would suit the combat style of Smash really well. We could even have command inputs, similarly to Ryu, Ken and Terry for some moves. And as for the final Smash, I think it would make sense to call in the police car from the original Streets of Rage that launches a rocket onto the battlefield for an explosive impact. Axel also looks pretty different in the new Streets of Rage 4, so why not include his older self as an alternative costume to coincide with the franchise's latest entry? Alternatively, we could always go with another fan favourite in the form of Blaze Fielding instead of Axel, for more female representation too. So there we have it, my 6 choices for if I had to make a Sega themed Fighters Pass. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments which 6 Sega characters you would choose if you were to make your own version of a Sega only Fighters Pass. I'm interested in seeing what you have to say, and whenever I make another episode, I may even feature some of your suggestions in the next one. so let's get some ideas going. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, see you later.